I'm here with the hive that was removed from that property, that open air hive, and I want to get into it so you can see the progress. The removal was done in July of this year. It's of last year, I guess. It's January 2nd today, so it's been a few months, and we're going to get into the hive and see what we see. I already smoked the hive from the entrance a while ago. So I have a queen excluder on this hive. They filled the bottom 2 boxes with brood in a couple months. They seem to draw comb pretty quickly, which is nice. And they seem to produce honey pretty well. This box was put on about, I don't know, a week ago. And a little bit of nectar going here. I don't expect to find the queen on this frame. It's all nectar, so no eggs. Plus I have a queen excluder on it, so if there's eggs up here, then I trap the queen up here. So probably need to look for that. Okay, the top box is definitely all nectar. No queen. A lot of nectar again on the outside frames. Some capped honey, so they're really putting away nectar. Don't expect the queen to be on this frame. Just double check before I set it down. I don't want to set down a frame with the queen on it. Another resource frame here. They're making drones even though it's January. We don't really have winter in California. We have spring and summer and late summer, and that's it. Our winters are basically a second spring, so this is pretty common. It hasn't rained much this year. Real healthy new comb here that they've built on this frame, so that's good. This hive is about to expand. Right now, in my neighborhood, I'm in a suburban neighborhood in the Long Beach, California area. There is a bloom of Australian willow. The city planted a bunch of Australian willow trees as street trees about 7 years ago. They used to have Bradford pear and black locust, and they switched over to a more drought tolerant tree because of all the problems we had with weather. Look at that, beautiful, beautiful frames of brood there. So the Australian willows anyway, they bloom all winter. So I get this buildup, and a lot of it's just luck of the draw. I happen to live in an area where there's a bunch of winter blooming trees. But back to the comb here, you'll notice how this goes up. Here, let me get one hand on it and hold it. Notice how this goes up. This is a center frame in this second box. I would expect the one below it to be solid brood, and this is kind of the top of their brood nest here. Top center of the brood nest. All right, we should be getting closer to the queen here. Here's some larvae and eggs. Let me flip this upside down. The queen has been here very recently. There's eggs that are standing almost on end, but I don't believe she's on here right now. Also, I really like this hive tool. It's got this little hook on it so you can get under there, but you still use it normally, unlike there's a J-hook one that has the hook on this end, and you would get underneath and you have to flip the tool. This one's cool, you just go like this and it stays in the same position. You don't have to flip it around. It's a little bit of a time saver. And it still has a scraper on the other end, so you can scrape if you need to dress frames and stuff, which I obviously don't do. I mean, this hive is just, they're doing great. Okay, resources. Now you can see here, this is some of the comb that I transferred from the original cutout. So it's all in this bottom box. You can see there's some voids in there. It's darker, it's older. It's been used for a few brood cycles, but it attached pretty well. I'm even holding it sideways, it's not sagging. So they've filled this with nectar and pollen. So they got bee bread in this thing. This is 3 frames in. So what this is telling me is that the queen is wanting to move up, but I've got a queen excluder on the hive, so that's preventing her from moving up. So I got to be careful that I don't throw them into swarm mode because of the choices I'm making with hive management. So that's one of the things about queen excluders. It's a kind of double-edged sword. They can help keep your brood nest concentrated into one part of your hive, but weather conditions can sort of dictate whether or not how that's gonna play out over the course of the season. So you have to sort of make smart decisions and pay attention to the weather and what's happening, especially out here in like SoCal. And you can see, look at this nasty cross comb. I think all but a few of these are foundationless, and this is why I probably will never do a foundationless hive. It's just so hard to get them not to draw cross comb like that. I mean, look at that. But look, they've got brood on this frame, which is funny because this one is actually closer to this wall than the first one I pulled. The first one was frame 3. This is frame 2. They've got brood on it, but the other one has packed with bee bread. But look at the concentration of bees. They're kind of dark compared to my other bees. They're not terribly defensive, I wouldn't say. So I think this is definitely a keeper. Here's another one, another original frame, big gap here. See, this is all pretty new comb. Look how big the cells are here. It's drone comb there. Okay, this is what I've seen a lot. Oh, look at this. Queen cell, I think. Oh no, it's not. There's a drone cell on the side of it. So that's not a queen cell, but it sure looks like one. Wow, that's an interesting nodule there. Never seen something like that. One thing though that I'm not seeing, which is interesting, is there's no eggs in this particular frame. But the next frame is just packed with brood. Now look at the, again, bunch of pollen coming in. Look at that. Now this is what I was expecting to see close to the center of the bottom of the brood nest. Notice how it's packed top to bottom, side to side with brood. Look at the color of the cappings. They're sort of a brownish amber. They're slightly raised. That's beautiful. That's a really good, healthy laying pattern. There's no sunken in cappings or anything. They're all nice and slightly protruded. Nothing weird looking. So that's a really healthy hive. That's beautiful. And that's a good laying pattern. So this is a really good queen. She's really making a lot of bees and a lot of workers, and they're doing really good work here. I'm never gonna find the queen in this thing. There's too many bees. It's one thing, this is one downside to medium hive bodies, is that look at how many bees are spilling out. Now this would happen in a deep too, but they're more concentrated on these shorter frames in a medium. So it's one of the things that I don't particularly love about doing mediums all the way across is when you get into these type of hive inspections and you're looking at all your frames, you get to the bottom box, you get such a high concentration of bees on the frames that it's difficult to find the queen, because the bees are just concentrated into a smaller amount of space compared to if this was a, you know, 9 1/4 or whatever the length of a deep frame is. You would have about 3 more inches here of frame, and it would spread the bees out, make the queen a little easier to find. It's not impossible, but it's just challenging. Now, I don't have to find the queen. I'm really just doing this for my own edification. I know there's a queen, but I am thinking about making some splits off this hive. So I like to mark my queens when I can find them. It just makes life easier, but again, not a requirement. Another one of the OG frames. Look at that. It's all honey. I think I'm going to have to make some executive decisions here, because there's several frames of straight up honey in here, so I think I might have to shake some of these bees off and then move some of the frames up, but I'm not going to do all that on camera, I don't think. All nectar. And they're drawing this one out. Good colony health here. You can see these are the plastic frames. These are the only 2 plastic frames in the bottom one. Here you see them festooning on here. See how they're kind of tied together? These bees are hanging off each other. That means they're drawing wax here on this frame. If I could shake them off, which I can, you see how they're starting to draw out that wax. So they're working on this one. Well, I think I'm going to leave it at that for this inspection. So it looks like I'm going to have to move some stuff around, or she's going to run out of room to lay. They're packing this hive with resources. So even though it's only January, the weather is warm enough that we could probably go ahead and start making queens. I'll have to look at what the quote-unquote long-term projections show, but it's so hard to trust any kind of weather reports that are more than a couple weeks. But it's been in the mid to high 60s to low 70s, and it's supposed to hold that way for a while. So I may start making splits and queens a month sooner than I was expecting to. So I'll keep you posted. Thanks for tuning in.